Hello and welcome to the Authentic Alliance podcast. This is a place for authentic conversation to occur. I am your host, Anthony Granger, and if you would want to know a little bit more about me and the services that I provide, things like coaching, an online men's group, and much more, please go over to my Instagram, which is Anthony Granger, or head over to my website, which is anthonygranger.com. Hello and welcome. This is going to be a Q&A podcast. I did put up a post recently on my Instagram and asked you guys to ask me some questions, and I was going to do an Instagram live, but I thought, hey, I got some great questions back, so I'm going to do a podcast and answer these questions in a little bit more detail. I haven't really had a full chance to look through these questions and ponder on them too much, so I'm just going to try and answer them as honestly and as authentically as I can in this moment. This is the Authentic Alliance podcast, and I do want to try and have this to be a space for me to let down my guard and to be honest and vulnerable as possible, so then I can relate to you guys in some sort of way. First up, question, who are you? My name is Anthony Granger. I am 28 years old. I come from the UK, a small town called Seaham. I have been travelling now the world for the last 5 years. I've been to Southeast Asia and I've been to Australia, and now I'm currently in Canada. But not only that, I've been also traveling the mind in the past 5 years as well. I've also been trying to explore the mind and heal from my own trauma. Try and break repetitive bad habits, and try and just to fully be able to fully accept myself and integrate my full self into my life. So it's not only been a physical journey, but it's also been a mental journey, and I'm still very much on that journey right now. I am a personal coach, and I've been a personal coach now for 2 years. And I only coach people on the things that I have personally been through. And for 2 years, I have been, doing a lot of coaching and going to men's group and trying to do a lot of work on myself, so I'm able to heal and then be able to serve and support others in their journey. I also host an online men's group. I also go to a men's group here in Calgary, but I host my own online. I am a person who is introverted. I'm very introverted and like to spend a lot of time by myself. Sometimes that's too much time because I do understand the importance of community and socializing. I am a person who has anxious tendencies. Sometimes I, have anxious thoughts around social anxiety and around my own life, especially when I've had coffee. I cannot have coffee, which is something that I've learned over and over again the past 4 years. Coffee definitely sets off my anxiety. I am somebody who is sometimes hard on himself. I always get down on myself and have a lot of self-judgment and a lot of self-criticism. Even now in this podcast, I'm wanting to stop the podcast and start this video all over again, because I feel like I've already messed up a few times and I'm not speaking right and I'm not presenting myself in the way that I need to present myself. I am somebody who loves to go to the gym and physically exert himself, and that is not only for my physical health but also my mental health. I am somebody who needs a goal in life. I always need a goal to work towards, and that makes me feel good in myself when I'm working towards a specific outcome or a specific goal. I am someone who likes to feel the adventure of life. I like to live life a little bit on the edge and not have the restrictions that society sometimes puts on us. I like to feel free, and I like to be able to explore, and I'm currently still living out of a backpack, and even though I have a permanent apartment at the minute, but I don't tend to accumulate a lot of things because I want to be on the move. I'm someone who likes to think deeply. I'm very introspective, and I love learning about spirituality and different philosophies, and I love just pondering on deep questions in life. And and also, I'm a fragment of consciousness, like all of us. I am one. I am everything and anything. If you've ever looked into somebody's eyes long enough, you realise that the same thing that's inside of you is inside of me, and I am just a fragment of consciousness having a human experience. So yeah, that's who I am. Next question. What's something people don't know about you? Good question. People probably don't really know. I mean, yeah, they don't know that I don't know what I'm doing in life. Because social media these days, we can all portray ourselves to have it all figured out, and we a very structured way, and we present ourselves to be able to know what we're doing, and we have all these things planned out, and we're on this path. And for me personally, I obviously portray myself sometimes on social media, and people might believe that I have it all figured out and that I'm living this dream life and I'm on this journey. But realistically, I don't know what I'm doing. I do take it one day at a time, and I am just trying to navigate my life as best as I can and show up for myself as best as I can, day by day. And I don't have it all figured out, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not needing to understand and to know what's coming in life. And I also still set goals, and I still, set my compass in a direction, and I do manifest things into my life, and I do have structure, and I do like to be on a direction in life. But realistically, deep down, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I am just winging it, if you know what I mean. And I feel like people might be able to relate to that because, like I said, social media is a place where everyone has it all figured out, and we believe that we're sometimes behind in life. And for me, I can just admit now that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just taking it as it comes. Yeah. Next question. What's your favorite thing to do? Good question. I've got a few favorite things. One of them is camping, getting out into nature, especially here in Canada. I love to break out of the city environment and get out into nature for prolonged periods of time, and just the sense of freedom that gives me, and the energetic shift of presence and peace that gives me is just beautiful, and it's definitely one of my favorite things to do. I like, obviously, to go to the gym. I love bodybuilding, and just physically pushing myself to my limits. That's another favorite thing that I love to do. And like I said, that's not about just the physical aspect, but that's the mental aspect of it as well. I am a big believer in being able to create your own discipline and create your own confidence. And for me personally, when I feel most confident in my life and the most disciplined in my life is when I do things that I don't want to do, like go to the gym and squatting. I don't really want to do that, and it's very painful and uncomfortable, but every time that I'm able to control my own mind, I'm able to push past that barrier and say it to myself, no, you are going to do this, and I then go and do it. I feel so much better after, because I'm able to be in control of my own being. I'm not letting my mind control me. I am controlling my own mind. And with that comes a newfound sense of confidence. I feel more confident because I'm in control and I call the shots. So going to the gym is a beautiful thing, and it's one of my favorite things to do, just to strengthen my mind. And one of my other favorite things is to have nights where I truly connect with myself. And I know that might sound a bit weird, but I often have nights where I smoke a little weed. Weed is legal here in Canada, and I do believe that weed is a psychedelic, and if it's used properly, and not in a recreational sense, but if it's used with respect and it's used to be able to heighten different experiences, you can have some profound, beautiful experiences. And the way I use weed is to connect to myself. I have nights where I smoke a little bit of weed, I journal, I meditate, I journal a little bit more, and I meditate, and I listen to music, and I just sit with myself, and I'm able to fully build up a relationship with myself and fully be able to connect to myself through weed and through one of these nights where I'm allowing space to sit with myself. Because I often get caught up in anxiety. I'm a very anxious person, and that anxiety for me stems from me not having a relationship with myself. So I start to get really hard on myself. I start to beat myself up, and I start to let intrusive thoughts come in, to the point where I fall out with myself. My anxious mind, I call him Anxious Andy. Anxious Andy takes over and he just attacks me all the time. And these nights, these spiritual nights, these nights where I'm able to smoke a bit of weed and really build up some self-love and build up some self-acceptance and be with myself, really mitigates that anxiety, and it makes me feel whole and confident as a human being. So that is definitely one of the favorite things that I like to do. I actually had one of them nights last night. I journaled and it was beautiful, and I don't do it all night. I do it for a few hours and I connect with myself, and then I go off and do other things, and then I always have the best sleep, and then the next day I always feel a newfound sense of wholeness in me being. I feel fully whole and I feel accepted and grounded, and my anxiety is very small. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. So, next question. Why are you the way you are? Why is anybody the way they are? Social conditioning, our upbringing, life circumstances, trial and error, I don't know. One of the greatest realizations, or most profound realizations for me, was learning about that, how the child is a blank slate. The child, when we are children, we are just blank slates of consciousness, and we learn about ourselves through the reflection of our external circumstances. And the upbringing in a certain type of family dynamic or a certain type of culture can really make people the way they are. And sometimes it's hard for people to break out of that, especially when you've been brought up in a very rigid family structure or a rigid culture, and then you become an adult and you are starting to question, why are you the way you are? And you want to change. It's hard to change because you've been through a factory setting. When you are a child, you're going through the factory setting process. You're getting programmed, you're getting socialized into culture, you're getting socialized into the world. So when you reach an adult and you don't want to be the way you are, you want to be somebody different, you're up against, not only are you up against your own mind to be able to change that, but you're up against the whole programming of yourself as well. So yeah, I'm no different. Why am I the way I am? It's because of my upbringing and the socialization that I got from a child through to now. A big part of why I am the way I am right now is because I have a tendency to think deeply about life, and I have a very strong passion to grow as a human being. My purpose in life is to be free, and that's to be free in a financial sense, in free to be able to express myself the way I want, to be free in the physical sense, to travel the world. My ultimate goal is freedom. And I think to attain that freedom, I first need to grow. I need to grow into that freedom. But yeah, so that is why I am the way I am, I guess, in a nutshell. Next question. What is shadow work? Great question. I really want to answer this question because shadow work is something that I use in my coaching. And shadow work has been fundamental to me being the person that I am today. To be able to fully integrate the shadow and the dark aspects of my personality, the parts that I've been trying to hide from the world, has allowed me to fully step into the authentic Anthony, to fully step into my power. So let's talk about shadow work. What is shadow work? First of all, we need to understand the mind. We've got the conscious mind, which we are aware of. We've got the unconscious or the subconscious that we are unaware of. And the shadow aspect of our personality is the parts of our personality that we have repressed, that we have pushed into the unconscious, so into the shadow part of our personality, the dark part of our consciousness, because we want to be unaware of it. We don't like it, so we repress it. And this could happen a few different ways. And also, we don't just repress the negative parts of our personality, the things that we don't want or the things that we've tried to hide, but we also repress the positive aspects of our personality. And that's often a misconception. The misconception is that it's only negative traits in the shadow, but it's both positive and negative. And, I'm not an expert on this, but it is something that I've been through myself and I love to study about and learn about. And sometimes I can, really feel the shadow side of me working through me, and I'm able to realize that now. I'm able to realize when I am displaying behaviors from the shadow, or I'm displaying behaviors from my conscious self. So the shadow aspect of the personality, parts of the personality that we repress. I mean, why would we repress parts of our personality? Why would we push parts of our personality into the shadow? And it goes back to the why are you the way you are, and the socialization aspect, but there's a few different reasons why you push parts of yourself into your shadow. But if I'm going to give you an example, it could be things like you as a child are acting, very extrovertly and confident and, really full of who you are, and you're a very confident person, but your family dynamic don't show any appreciation to that. I don't really like that in you. So every time you're shown this confidence, they tell you that it's wrong, or that you shouldn't, by subliminal sometimes messages tell you that you shouldn't be displaying this certain trait. So what your child mind does is realizes that, okay, I am displaying this confident trait and I'm feeling this confidence, but it isn't being recepted very well to the outside external environment that I'm currently living in. So then you repress that side of yourself. So the confident aspect of yourself gets repressed into the shadow. And what happens is then we grow into adults, or we move through life, and we have all these tendencies and traits in the shadow personality that is in there, and it's unacknowledged, so that we aren't able to fully use it, and we aren't able to fully be able to navigate through life with these certain traits. So if we're talking about the confidence aspect of ourselves, we could be lacking confidence in our adult life. We could be always timid and unable to fully be able to show up in the way we want to show up. So what we do is we do shadow work, and shadow work is basically all it is doing is shining light on the dark parts of our personality, so then we can process that part of ourselves and we can bring it into the light, so then we can be a whole human being. So I've actually got a few questions here to so how you can look into the shadow. And this isn't shadow work, but these are a few questions you could journal on, or you could ponder on. I do recommend you getting yourself into a nice meditative state. So if you want to pause this video or pause the podcast now and get yourself grounded and get yourself into the present moment, whether that's through a nice online guided meditation, or you're able to just bring yourself into that moment. And then I'm going to read off a few questions here that you can answer in the moment, or you can journal down and then think about these questions a bit more deeply. And this might just shine a little bit of awareness on the shadow aspect of yourself. So question number 1 is, what I tend to keep in the dark about myself is. Number 2, what I least want others to know about me is. Number 3, what I tend to blind myself to is. Number 4, the emotions I am least comfortable with are. Number 5, in my nightmares or in my dreams, I am usually running away from. Number 6, what am I least willing or most uncomfortable expressing in a relationship? What am I least willing or most uncomfortable expressing in a relationship? And the last one, completing these sentences feels like. So this is just a way to open yourself up and to start to be a bit honest with yourself and vulnerable with yourself, and maybe to think about things that you've never thought about before, about your own personality. And if you answer these, openly, you might actually get a little introduction or a little glance at your shadow and what you're trying to, keep repressed. But like I said, this isn't shadow work. This is just basically trying to look a little bit further into the shadow. And also, I want to read out signs that our shadow self is in charge. So we're acting from the shadow part of ourself. There's 7 signs here, and I'm just going to read them out. And the first one is we overreact to certain situations and things in our life. So we overreact, we act not accordingly to the actual situation, but we tend to to overreact, get angry, or get upset very quickly. Number two is we have an us versus them mentality. So, we're always in competition with people. Number three is we overvalue positivity. So we always strive to be positive, and if we're ever feeling down, we always look upon that as being a negative thing. That feeling down or feeling blue or feeling in a negative state is something really bad, and we always need to feel positive. Number four is when we make the same mistake over and over again. I'm guilty of this. I make the same mistake all the time, and I am getting better at learning the lesson sooner, but it is something that happens a lot in my life. Number five is saying we're fine when we're not fine. Not really speaking our truth and not telling people how we actually feel. Number six is not saying I'm sorry when there's something to be sorry about. So when you've done something wrong or there is a apology to be required and you're unable to apologize. And number seven is regressing to an emotional younger self. So when a situation happens and you often fall back into a younger emotional state. And an example of this is maybe if you're an adult and something goes wrong or doesn't go your way, you tend to stamp your feet or get really upset and start crying, and you act kind of childlike. It's sometimes of a sign of a shadow aspect of yourself shining through. So yeah, that's probably it with the shadow work question. What is shadow work? To summarize it up, it's basically the repressed parts of your personality, the repressed parts of your consciousness. You are then shining light on them parts of yourself. You are processing it all, and you're bringing the repressed parts of your personality into the conscious awareness, so then you're able to integrate your full self, be authentic, and move through life as a whole human being. Next question is, how hard was it to get away from your old mentality and into the mentality I am in now? And also, did you have any hiccups along the way in your transition? I mean, it's a good question. How hard was it to get away from your old mentality into the mentality you're in now? I feel like the old mentality's still there, and I feel like sometimes we can get caught up in trying to change our mentality and change who we are into a better version. But for me, it's not about getting rid of the old, but it's more about adding more of the new. So I feel like before, I was only operating from 20% of my mentality. I was only operating from 20% of my personality. I used to hide a lot of things about myself. I used to believe a lot of things about myself, like a lot of false narratives and beliefs that I wasn't worthy and I'm not capable. And to get away from the old mentality, it wasn't about pushing anything away. It was more about bringing in the new. So it was more about learning about myself. It was more about learning from mistakes. It was more about stepping into my own authenticity, going after what I want, learning about the things that I want. How can I grow best? How can I be honest with myself? How can I accept myself fully? Self-acceptance and self-love is huge. And like I said, getting away from the old mentality was basically all I've been doing is bringing in new aspects of myself, exploring new ideas and experiences. And that's how I've been able to bring in the mentality that I am now. My old self is still there, and I still fall back into that old pattern of thinking and self-doubt, and that 20% of myself that was small and I used to keep myself small. I still fall back into that all the time. But for me, it's like, how can I show up for myself today? How can I be the best version of myself today? And it's hard. And if we're talking about hiccups, did I have any hiccups along the way? Yeah, I have hiccups all the time. I have days where I feel on top of the world and I feel strong in my authenticity. I feel fully accepting of myself and I give it my all, and I'm very confident in what I'm doing and what I'm speaking about. And I have days where I'm, riddled with self-doubt and anxiety, and I fall back into the old way of thinking and the old mentality of keeping myself small and closed off from the world. So yeah, there's hiccups all over the place for me, and I think it's an ever-growing process. And the getting away from the old mentality was to stop being hard on myself all the time and allow myself space to grow and be who I want to be. So yeah. And the next question is, do you ever feel like you are behind in life? And yes, this is something that I often, get caught up in. And it's because life and society kind of forces you to believe that if you aren't married with kids and you aren't in a very, stable job and you haven't got a mortgage and you haven't got a pension set up by a certain age, then somehow you're falling behind in life. Somehow that, society judges you and makes you believe that you're less than if you haven't attained these certain standards. And I feel like it is just a herd mentality. A lot of people just do that because it's what everybody else does. But for me, it's different. And yeah, I'm not saying that I don't want that and I don't, respect that and I don't see that as success. I definitely do. And in the future, I am, probably wanted to have children and I want to have a permanent residence. And I think that's maybe going to be a thing that I want in the future. I don't know yet. But we're talking about falling behind in life. And I feel like we look to attain that by a certain age, and if we don't have that by a certain age, we are falling behind. And I just don't think that's the truth. I feel like we have to all go at our own pace and set our own pace and live our lives true to ourselves and not the idea of how life should be lived through the society's eyes. And we should all redefine our own idea of it. I have to kind of remind myself that I am on my own journey for my own reasons, and everybody else is on their own journey for their own reasons. And I also have to redefine and solidify my idea of success. What does success look like to me? And yeah, to other people, having children and settling down and stuff, and being a certain stage of their life at a certain age is success, and that's beautiful. But for me, I have to remind myself of what life do I want to live? What life do I want to lead? And stop comparing that to other people's. And that's where that thought comes from. It's the comparison. I often compare myself to other people at certain and different ages and think that somehow I am behind, when it's untrue, because my idea of success, like I said, is different. And I don't want to base my life on other people's idea of success. I want to base it on my own. So when I do have these thoughts of like, yes, I am feeling like I am behind in life, I just remind myself that, first of all, I am on my own journey for my own reasons. And I think that you should remind yourself about that as well. Second of all, you should redefine your idea of success, not just financially, but who you want to be as a person, where you want to be in your life, what you actually want to achieve in your life, and redefine the actual idea around what being ahead in life is actually all about. And then thirdly is the comparison. On social media these days, we tend to believe that everybody has something and everybody's got it figured out and everybody's just really ahead and working all these big dreams and big goals, and we tend to compare ourselves to other people and believe that we are behind in life and that we're falling behind in some sense, which is untrue. But yeah, I definitely sometimes get caught up in that thought. I get caught up in all that paradigm and that way of thinking. But yeah, I just remind myself that I'm on my own journey and my idea of success is different from other people's. So next up is, where can I find more information about you? So I have a website, anthonygranger.com. It's got all of my information about my services and the support that I provide. Like I said, I'm a personal coach. I also host online men's group, which is great for men to come together and work in a community space to better themselves and their lives. It's also got a bit of information on there about me. And yeah, anthonygranger.com. Go on there and check it out. And do you only work with men? No, I don't. I work with both genders. At the moment, I am primarily only working with men, but that's not out of choice. That's because men are the only people that have been coming to me. But the work that I do in the personal coaching that I do isn't gender specific. It is across all boards. It's about stepping into your power, authenticity, integrating your full self and how to fully accept the self to move yourself forward in your life in the way that you find your own fulfillment. Whether that's in the physical or the mental. But yeah, that isn't gender specific. I work with both genders. So, okay, that is going to be a wrap for the podcast, guys. And yeah, I am going to do one of these again because I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the Q&A. I enjoyed sitting down and answering questions that you have personally asked me. So stay tuned to my Instagram, which is Anthony Granger. And you'll see a box up there in the next week where you can ask me more questions and we can do another podcast.